Raiden wins.
Street Fighter had this feature which I loved and hated at the same time. You can get your opponent dizzy. I loved the fact when I was the aggressor and saw my opponent dizzy, you're almost like salivating at this free hit that you get. And then I hated the idea of being the victim. I put the dizzy feature at the end of the fight. You just get like one last hit. And everybody would do an uppercut as your kind of like payoff. We had a feature that we had dropped in the game where Shang Tsung, when he would defeat you, he would take a sword out and he would like cut your head off. And we weren't going to use it because we were out of space, but we still had the animations of all the characters falling to their knees without a head. One day I just kind of piecemealed the idea of Johnny Cage uppercutting the opponent with this uppercut animation and then using the animations of the character with his head, you know, cut off.
Johnny Cage wins. Flawless victory fatality.
I showed it to John, I showed it to the rest of the team, and everybody lost their mind, and we have to do this. The fact that we gave the players the ability to actually perform this kind of death blow, this kind of killing move, was really the birth of that idea. Some people were kind of like saying, I don't think we can get away with, you know, letting the player kill the other player. So we showed it to management, and they loved it.
I was surprised that we could include the level of you know, blood spattering around that we did. But of course, you know, when I was working on Mortal Kombat, I had just come from Smash TV and Total Carnage. And so, you know, the levels of blood spattering around the screen wasn't new to me.
From that point on, it was, okay, now we got to think of fatalities for all the characters. Some of the later characters, we actually grabbed animations of them, you know, Kano ripping the heart out, Sonya doing the kiss of death and all that. The spine rip was a suggestion from John Tobias, referencing the movie Predator, and he said, why don't we do what they did in Predator where you pull the head out?
It's just like, oh, it was just like, oh my God.
And I remember saying, you know, I think that's probably crossing a line, we can't do it. Again, once we mocked it up, put it into the game, you know, there was no turning back. Everybody was just losing their mind.
And if anything, I felt like there was a bit of encouragement coming from other folks, you know, around the office, just because of the excitement that it drew from the players.
Everybody had to see this. No one had ever seen somebody removing someone's spinal cord. It's interesting, it made it so much more emotional. It just like, you're just like, yeah! You know, it's almost like that barbaric, primal emotion, like, yeah! You know, like,
we never performance captured a fatality for Liu Kang. But there were some animations that we had not used. One of them was this really cool cartwheel kick.
Whoa! Yeah, let's grab that again, even if we don't use it. We'll use it someplace.
We were both like, wow, we'll find a place for that. When it came time to do Liu Kang's fatality, we just spliced on the uppercut animation at the end of it, and it wasn't disgusting, it wasn't gross, it wasn't shocking.
Liu Kang wins.
And we just kind of reasoned with ourselves to say, well, Liu Kang's the hero, he's a Shaolin monk, he's peaceful, heroes don't kill people, so he just gave him a big uppercut. The process of adding fatalities into the game created so much energy in the whole studio in terms of their excitement for the game that we knew there was no backing out of it at that point.
again, you're in a very small screen environment. You really have to exaggerate things. You have to make it just outrageous.
Scorpion wins.
We found the Holy Grail. It's like hitting the lottery. You know, it was something that we knew was going to be a signature part of Mortal Kombat.
I always judge a great game by how loud players get when they play. You yell at your friends and laugh, and the volume level is a measure of a good game for me.
And like I said, it was just fun and it was happy, and that may be the secret sauce.
I think again, when you see people playing the game and they're losing their minds and they're reacting to it,
yeah.
there's your fuel.
Yeah.
There's your fuel for the next, for the next year to do it. So.
Who put the K in combat?
I did. I put the K in combat. I didn't come up with a name, but the K. This is my story. This is my memory, anyway.
I came up with mortal and the K instead of a C.
Yeah, well, you know what's going to happen? We're going to come up with all the names. We're all going to like them, and Ed's going to hate every one of them. Why? DEFCON is overused. Where? Everywhere. I've heard that so many times.
Yeah, every time you watch War Game.
Ed's probably right behind me, isn't he? Like going, no, you didn't.
I think there's different stories going on. This is my recollection. It's been 30 years. We had a bunch of words written on a grease board.
We didn't have a name, so there was a bunch of possibilities, and one of them was Mortal Kombat.
Combat was written, I don't know if it had a K at the time, but Steve Ritchie, he said the words, what about Mortal Kombat?
They had combat on their whiteboard, but they were all a lot younger than me, and I'm not sure they ever heard of the phrase, they fought in Mortal Kombat, meaning somebody's gonna die. It is what this game is about. It's Mortal Kombat.
And when he said that, from my perspective, it was like, whoa, there's the name right there. But I don't remember, do you remember where the K came from?
Yeah, so what I remember was that. And then I think we went to legal with that name, Mortal Kombat with a C, and they came back and said no, because they couldn't trademark it, because it was, I guess, a common term. I remember it was John Vogel,
right,
who wrote the K.
Yeah, yeah.
And in fact, he might have done that before that conversation with the legal department.
As a joke, I was in the room with Ed, and as a joke, I changed the C to a K, and we were like laughing about it. Ha ha ha, that'd be funny, oh, it's so stupid. And then, so I said, all right, and I was putting it back to a C, and he goes, no, leave it, just leave the K. And so that's my memory as how it happened.
No, it was me, because the C was like, I don't know, just look cooler with the K. That's my thoughts.
And then I think we went back to legal and said, what about if it has a K? And then they went away, and then they came back and said, yes, you can. If you put a K on it, we can trademark it.
Actually, John Vogel's involvement does ring a bell for me.
I don't think I was enamored with the K. I thought it was goofy. And then when the realization hit that, well, if we change it with a K, we can use Mortal Kombat, it's like, oh, damn it. We're going to give it, I think Vogel was right.
Yeah.
So whether you hate me or love me for it, now C's are now K's.
This is the sound area. This is where they make all the sounds for the games.
I am an audio director here at NetherRealm. The sound guy, like, gotta get the voices in.
Dan shows you cool stuff every couple of days. He just comes in and you go, great, this is awesome.
And he's a lot like Ed, where I just have this confidence that, he's going to go away and come back with something spectacular.
That's the Johnny Cage Nut Crunch, I believe. Didn't someone make a candy bar, Johnny Cage Nut Crunch bar?
Again, we didn't know what we were doing, so it's just okay, it's a fighting game, a lot of yelling, a lot of pain. I don't think we had enough memory to record, okay, this is Scorpion's voice, this is Sub-Zero, so we just, like the men, we just mixed and matched. And I think Sonya was the only female in the first one, so we had obviously a female voice for that, and that was hers. But the rest of them, I think, would just be shared. We just get the talent, which was just people around the studio. It's not like we were hiring people to come in and do this.
We recorded me as the announcer, as Shang Tsung, Liu Kang wins. Finish him.
Liu Kang wins. Fatality.
Fatality. All of those those kind of classic sound calls was me, because we didn't have somebody with a better voice. Later on, we found Steve Ritchie, who had a much better voice in terms of like an announcer.
Baraka wins. Flawless victory. Fatality.
I did a terrible Bruce Lee impersonation for Liu Kang. I think I did a yell for Kano.
Kano wins.
But I was also the voice of Scorpion, you know, yelling, "Get over here."
Get over here! Excellent. Come here!
I had worked with Dan Forden for many years at the time. I remember there was another sound guy who thought that was the stupidest thing in the world. And it kind of was, you know. Why would a ninja, you know, yell, "Get over here"? That's such like an American kind of thing.
Wins.
The idea was, again, the outrageous presentation. We really wanted to have, you know, just yelling and loudness in general into the game. From something that became with such silly roots and beginnings, you can't imagine Scorpion not having the "Get over here."
Ed would get me, this is back in the days of VHS, right? He would get me a playthrough of the background that I'd be working on. These are the instruments that I have, and look at the background, trying to think of like, well, what makes sense musically for this.
You try to imagine the action of playing the game and what the music's gonna do to like get you revved up.
Ever since, I don't know, the 70s, early 70s even, but always liked progressive rock a lot. So a friend of mine turned me on to King Crimson in high school, and that's been like a love of mine ever since. And so there's no doubt that there's a lot of King Crimson influence in the Mortal Kombat music that I wrote over the years. You know, like the very first tune, it's a melody in a diminished scale, harmonized at the fifth. So that sounds like a lot of King Crimson stuff. I think they pretty much liked everything I did. I don't remember doing over too many things. Now and then there would be like, you know, maybe you should try this instead of that, and some sort of corrective feedback. But for the most part, it's just we were just kind of making it up as we went along.
Testing a game was always one of the most fun parts of the job.
Yeah! In the earliest days of Mortal Kombat development, the only place you could play the game was in Ed's office. I would play the game every day. Ed would call me in to try something out, but other people, you know, would walk by Ed's office and see what he was working on and come in and play the game. And it was very valuable feedback, because that feedback was coming from guys like Eugene and Mark Turmel and George Petro and, you know, a lot of the other developers in the office at the time. Eventually, we would put a game out in the hallway for anybody to play. And so we'd get pinball designers would come down and play the game. There were folks who worked in the factory would come back and they would play the game. And so we'd watch folks kind of play the game, and we'd take notes on sort of, you know, what the reactions were. And then eventually that would lead to our first weekend test.
Testing the game in the arcade was such a critical part of determining what's working and what doesn't work.
Being on test is like one of the best parts, one of the most exciting parts of doing an arcade game.
Our first location test was a weekend test that we did, and that was done at an arcade called Times Square. It was a Friday night, so it was packed. The arcade was packed. And there was a crowd around the Street Fighter game. Street Fighter 2 was out at the time. And I just thought, there's no way these guys are coming over to play our game.
It was like this big event. The whole video game department would go, no matter whose game it was.
You'd roll a blank black cabinet into an arcade and just turn it on.
When we brought the first Mortal Kombat game out on test, there were 6 characters. We didn't have Sonya yet. A whole bunch of things just weren't working. And it was all about just kind of the fundamentals, the feel of it, the reaction to the visual, the reaction to blood.
That rush, that reverie, or that destruction and devastation if something doesn't work out, you know, like, it's like, oh, we got to fix that, you know, and it hurts, you know, it feels bad.
I remember watching the first player, he was one of the guys from the crowd, walking over and looking at the attract mode and then dropping a token in and playing the game. And then I remember he walked over, tapped, fell on the shoulder, you know, called him over, and then the other guy came over, and then they played the game. And then slowly people migrated over.
Whenever you would see a secret move come out, I remember the first time they saw Raiden do the dive move, you know, you'd hear an audible, you know, cheering or gasp, or, you know, how did you do that? Easily the most enjoyable part for me was seeing and hearing reactions from players.
And at some point, Ed, I think, went in and he did a fatality. Kind of a thing, and then he walked away, you know. Like, now it's a big frenzy to figure out, like, how do you do that? How do you do that? And that's how people found out about the fatalities, assuming my memory is correct, but I believe that's how it happened.
We would never perform fatalities in front of people because then someone's going to see you do it, right? Like, we wanted to launch the game and have people discover it naturally and organically. Testing the first Mortal Kombat, there was a certain amount of anonymity, I guess you can say. Like, we could be in an arcade watching with a crowd of other people and be close enough in age to them that we just kind of blend in. You know, what is this new game? And then you would get a candid response. Once you tell them that you worked on the game, then you know, they're not going to say anything negative about it.
Across the street from Times Square was a pizza place. And so we would go across the street, get some pizza, and we would discuss, you know, everything that we saw, what was cool, what was not cool, or, you know, what should we change? You know, hey, that was cool. And it was so much fun.
Seeing that first game on test was so reaffirming that we had something big. I saw players get so excited they just had to run. They just had to run around like in circles.
By the end of that night, we had a pack of players around our game, hooting and hollering and just having a, you know, a great time.
Players that we saw first see the game on a Friday, we saw them the entire weekend.
And I think at that point I thought, okay, we're gonna be okay.
Let's try that one you were talking about. Okay. Where she.
Could you like probably in the back? You just do the handstand and then you go over. Yeah. All you have to do is just land right there.
Okay, can you do that, or is that?
That's great. Is that be enough for you?
Yeah, let's try it one more time and just step up a little bit, just in case I need anything before, just in case.
Start a little bit further up.
Can you start on the mat?
Okay, now once from the middle, act like you're just getting into it. You even have to. This is so we can do the beginning part.
She should do it from the stance.
Right, from your stance.
Get like in your stance and just act like you're getting into it. Actually, she should step up.
Move to the middle, like where you're.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good move. You'll be impressed when you see what we turn that into. This was our first game that we were doing kind of as the leaders of the games. You know, Mark Trammell was the kind of leader of the Smash TV team, and Eugene was kind of like the leader of the High Impact team, along with John Newcomer. And so this was kind of like our first solo project.
I think they have complementary skill sets.
We're symbiotic in a way. Certainly in the first few games, it was just like we just knew what the other person was looking for. And I don't know that we ever, I mean, if we had an argument, it certainly wasn't about the work that we were doing. We just seemed to know what the other person was looking for.
They worked well because they trusted each other's talents enough to say, okay, yeah, you know what you're talking about. Ed took care of all the programming. John took care of all the art.
They just had this unsaid, hey, you know, it'd be fun. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's do it.
Working with Ed, one of his great strengths were just his focus, I think, and his ability to just grind and get things done. Ed, who was the sole programmer to create that game, in hindsight, was incredible.
For one programmer to do all those games is pretty amazing. And
his door is always open. He wants to hear new ideas. He's dangerously funny, where it just busts me up at least once a day.
He would just crack us up all the time, just his jokes, and he made it easy to work the long hours.
John is a really good storyteller. John has a history in as a comic book artist. So I think that probably contributed to his ability to tell a compact story. The only story we had was a little paragraph that would play underneath the character doing a kata, but that was enough to really intrigue players.
You really gave a shit about it because of the backstory, because about the whole mythology that John Tobias had created. You know, maybe not unlike WWF or something, almost like Star Wars in martial arts.
The first game truly was like an expression of just who we were at the time. You know, we were in our early 20s, the stuff that we consumed growing up as kids, and we just threw it all into the game. There was nobody telling us what to do, how to do it.
I think it was a great partnership, and I think, you know, what can you say? Success beyond belief.
Fighting games have proven themselves to be strong collectors suitable for a wide range of locations. They embody the most attractive elements of the arcade experience: characters endowed with mythic powers, full player control, secret moves, and the kind of unbridled, head-to-head competition that compels repeat buy-in. Now from Midway comes Mortal Kombat. It captures the most popular elements of the fighting game and adds more control, more powerful characters, more depth, more secret moves, and advanced digitized graphics, delivering the most realistic fighting action available. Begin Mortal Kombat by choosing one of 7 characters, each boasting an arsenal of unique talents. There's Johnny Cage, the brash Hollywood movie star; Kano, thief and mercenary; Raiden, the mythical thunder god; Liu Kang, the fighting Shaolin monk; Scorpion, a ninja warrior bent on revenge; Sub-Zero, the ultimate assassin; and Sonya, U.S. Special Forces soldier. Each player has 5 basic moves corresponding to the 5 action buttons. High punch, high kick, low punch, low kick, and a block. In addition to these moves, players will continue to discover new joystick button combinations. Each new technique provides another competitive edge. For example, moving the joystick away from your opponent while pressing the low kick button will result in this sweep kick. Moving the joystick straight down will put the player in a crouch. By then releasing the joystick and pressing low punch, you'll administer a devastating uppercut.
Johnny Cage wins. Excellent.
Secret moves play a big part in the success of any fighting game. Collections soar as players strive to develop a character's full fighting potential. Mortal Kombat has several times more secret moves than the nearest competitor. The button joystick combinations required to execute these moves are different for each character, as are the moves themselves. And each character's arsenal of secret moves offers unique tactical advantages. If you learn one of Sonya's secret moves, you'll be able to perform this devastating scissor throw. Learning to activate Raiden's secret weapon lets you fire lightning bolts at your opponents.
Raiden wins.
Victory is achieved by winning 2 out of 3 rounds. Players losing a match will have to buy in to continue.
Liu Kang wins.
Finally, winning 3 matches against paired adversaries will put you in the ring opposite Goro, a 4-armed, unstoppable titan, half human, half dragon. Should Goro be subdued, you'll engage the most deceptive and powerful opponent of all, Shang Tsung, the bloodthirsty emperor capable of instantly becoming any fighter he chooses. Conquer Shang Tsung, and you will have joined unfrequented ranks, those who have battled all adversaries, yet survived.
Test your might.
Every 5 matches during both 1- and 2-player games, you'll have a chance to test your strength and win bonus points by smashing progressively harder objects. Two-player mode allows true head-to-head combat. Players must rely on their fighting abilities, as well as a knowledge of their character's strengths, as they are matched against an opponent with different but equally lethal abilities. Each player selects a character and the match begins. The player losing the best-of-3 match will have the option of buying in to continue. The winning player will continue to play as long as he maintains a string of victories. Loser pays, winner stays. From a technical standpoint, operators will find even more to like. Mortal Kombat employs Midway's exclusive diagnostic package and a sensitive yet durable 8-way microswitch joystick. In addition, operators will want to be aware of a dip switch setting we've included, allowing them to temper the game to fit the requirements of a location. By simply flipping a switch on the CPU board, you're able to remove any depictions of blood that would otherwise appear in the game. Another dip switch will disable the most graphic secret moves. In this way, operators can be sure they're matching the game to the disposition of their clientele. Mortal Kombat is quite simply the most complete video fighting game available. It boasts the industry's most realistic graphics, digitized images of real martial arts experts, heroic characters more powerful than those found on any other fighting game, secret moves to learn and master, and fierce battles against titanic adversaries. All of these elements combine to make this game powerfully unique, the world's most advanced interactive fighting experience.
Fighting games of that era kind of all had this level of secrecy to them. Mortal Kombat, I think, took that to a very extreme level.
You had to guess like the moves and how to figure out the codes.
I think Street Fighter did something like that, right? They didn't document any of the moves, so we took that same approach.
I think not having a move list, there was so much to explore and you had no idea of what you were still missing. It was another thing, it built up so much mystique to the game.
But then we kind of extended it, right, with the fatalities and whatnots. Especially at the end with the character Dizzy, there was a certain amount of, you know, what are you gonna do? you would see them trying to trigger something else. They knew that there was something secret in there.
The announcer's like, finish him! And you go up and go, boom. And you're like, damn it! I screwed up the fatality. It's like the worst feeling in the world.
And, you know, everyone was playing as Kano because in the early days before people, you know, knew what most of the moves were, Kano's moves were just, I don't know, move the joystick in a circle real fast and he'll turn into a ball and do it, or hit block and mash the buttons, I don't know.
First character I played was Kano, and I found the ball attack and the knife throw, and within the first day I found the fatality too.
Kano wins.
I was finding stuff right away.
I remember being in your office, and I remember you showing me what the button combinations were, and then you have to be standing this far away from the other character, and I remember thinking to myself, there's no way anybody's gonna figure this out. No one's ever gonna do this. And literally, like the first weekend, they figured it out right away. Yeah.
You know, the fatalities and special moves and things like those were things that you kind of had to trade around.
Because you'd hear people chattering like, oh, there's this move, and not having the internet at the time to go to. It made it very social.
If you knew something that wasn't, you know, widespread knowledge, you could take that down to the arcade and pull it out on somebody and really blow some mind.
So a lot of hand watching. Where did you stand? The most premium spots are literally right behind it, like right between two people, or on the corners, because those are the only spots where you were able to see the screen and people's hands at the same time.
There was so much in there, and it really requires a fan base to come together and share, to work together to play them and solve them and uncover the secrets and all that stuff.
I was always obsessed with those kinds of things. I was a big fan of Street Fighter, and there was this rumor that was not true that there was a character in there called Shenlong. And I remember when we had started this game thinking, you know, we have to have a real secret character. And so there was a Sunday, and Scorpion was yellow, Sub-Zero was blue, and I went into the art program and tinted him green, made up these crazy rules in terms of how to find him, made him jump out occasionally and kind of tease you with his existence. Put it together in one day, didn't even tell John about it, and was just kind of wondering how many people are going to pick up on this. It became a bit of like a Bigfoot. Some people had sightings and some people didn't, because there was this one that was real and was rather difficult to find. It could give players a little bit of creative license to come up with something and say that they did see something else happening in the game.
The level of secrets that happened in those first few Mortal Kombat games kind of corresponds with the rise of the internet. And people started trading around like, hey, here's a list of, I think these are fatalities.
I remember going home to my dad's house, and he had internet. He had a CompuSearch account. And I started just learning as much as I could. And I'm like, Dad, can I go back to the arcade? I want to try some of this stuff.
I made it my mission to test all that stuff out. And that became my calling. We need to investigate.
And I published my first FAQ, and it is the most inaccurate piece of junk that is available. It's like shameful, but it's where I started.
And then, you know, all these urban legends about Ermac and all these other alleged characters that it's kind of like, you know, how the kids used to say back in the day, the negative worlds in Mario Brothers and Mario could go skiing. You know, it's that kind of like, you know, the kid equivalent of water cooler conversations.
People would come up with lore, you know, lies of I did this and that happened, and everybody's, you know, and we just shut up.
A friend of mine in high school said he was cousins with someone who filmed for the game, and that there was a secret character that they had filmed. So I put it in my FAQ, and I trusted him and found out way later he was just messing with me.
The people feeding in things that they'd want to see in the game would kind of blend in with what was really there. Sometimes you'd see a move and then it was gone. You'd be like, I swear this was in there. Did that really happen? Like, there was no way to capture it.
A friend of mine, his little brother, was playing the game and told me about Kano's laser beam.
Yeah, that's
and,
right.
And I remember telling my friend's younger brother, there's no laser beam. He's like, no, I saw it. And so I know he's mistaken with what, I don't know what he saw, but he didn't see that. This mythology was being built by the player base. I think we understood that pretty early on, and Ed, more than anybody, I think really took advantage of that and kind of messed with the players with hiding stuff in the game.
Yeah, I remember somebody found one of Sonia's moves, and I foolishly changed it because I read it on a news group, thinking, yeah, I got the best of that.
And they did some devious things to keep a lot of those things secret. I think there was a revision of Mortal Kombat 2 where they just arbitrarily changed all the fatalities because everyone figured them out too fast. And it's maybe the most devious and mean thing they've ever done.
I remember thinking at that point, yeah, this internet thing has gotten, you can't beat it. You can't defeat it. It's just too powerful.
One of the fun things about going to an arcade was, a lot of people didn't have the internet just yet. So people would show up with their copy of their FAQ. Once I was there and I saw someone with my guide, like my FAQ, and I was like, oh, where'd you get that? He's like, oh, the guy who wrote it sold it to me. And I was like, what do you mean sold it to you? I wrote it.
We had a Mortal Kombat comic book that John drew, and we were the ones stuffing the envelopes, and we started writing messages to players. Sonya has a slide move, She didn't have a slide move. Within a week, I was at, it was like Gala North or something arcade, and some guy was playing Sonya, just keep trying these things. And one of the guys said, what are you looking for? And he goes, I'm looking for Sonya's slide move, Poor guy was, looking for it. But we were just adding fuel to that fire.
Most of those secrets went unknown to me until much later in life when walkthroughs on YouTube became a thing. And I was like, whoa, I totally missed a lot of stuff in a lot of games.
So to us, secrets were basically replay value. And that was the most important thing for us. Having more to do with the game, having more to discover, more to enjoy.
We love the idea of, just this question mark over the game. What else is in there that nobody else has found? And it just made the game that much more mysterious, right?